And again, thanks for joining this travel session for our trip to Jordan this evening. As I mentioned a short while ago, I will start sharing my screen with you and start my presentation for Jordan. I will go over the itinerary and the highlights of this interesting trip. So I am sharing my screen, and I assume you can see my screen at the moment. So this is our trip to Jordan in May, from May 5th to 14th. Jordan, an adventure in time, 10 days, 8 nights. This is a very good time to visit Jordan. Now, Jordan is an Islamic country, as I'm sure you know, and there is Ramadan, the feasting month. And during that month, all the activities are kind of subdued. And so we wanted to avoid that for 2023. Ramadan will be in April. So we arranged our trip in May so that we will be there after Ramadan at a good time of the year. And Jordan, now this is a map of the itinerary. I believe Jordan is one of the totally underrated and neglected destinations of the Middle East. There's Turkey to the east, not an immediate neighbor, but an attraction itself. And there's Egypt here, there's Israel here. So in the region with these three big names, Jordan, unfortunately, did not get the interest that it deserves. It is a totally interesting country, and as we're going to see, it shares most of the history with the surrounding countries, being just in the middle of Syria to the north, Iraq northeast, Saudi Arabia to the south, Israel to the west, and by way of Gulf of AQABA, Egypt to the west. So partly just we can say it is located in the neighborhood of some problem areas for the last 2 decades at least. So that also made Jordan a kind of unattractive maybe, or neglected in the sense of tourism. But as we'll go over the itinerary, as we go over the highlights and the history of the country, we will see that it totally deserves a long visit, and a very interesting country with its history and culture. Now, Jordan, this is a semi-constitutional monarchy, a country with a population of 11 million, area of 35,000 square miles, which roughly corresponds to Indiana, if we compare with the US states. And the official name is, now let's just close up and let's see a close-up map of the country, Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. This Hashemite Kingdom, this comes from the Hashemite dynasty. Now the King Abdullah II, he is the grandson of the founder, Sharif of Hijaz, Sharif Hussein. Now, if I go back actually just to mention one thing, before, well, at the end of the 19th century, beginning of 20th century, before Saudi Arabia was established, this area was under the dominance of Ottoman Empire in the first place, and French and British were trying to just come in and divvy up all this area between themselves. And at the time, this grandfather, Sharif Hussein, he was the Sharif, that is a title actually given to the honorable people who are from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad. He was the ruler of Hijaz, which is Mecca and Medina to the south, if you can see my cursor, which is the holiest place in the Islamic world. Mecca and Medina, the holiest place with Kaaba and the location of annual pilgrimage. So he was the ruler of that area, and he is the founder of this Hashemite family. And as the things developed with the local wars and Ottoman Empire losing power and the First World War and everything, this Hashemite family established or tried to establish their own kingdom down there. But with the establishment of Saudi Arabia and dominance of Saudi power, they had to move up north where Jordan is today. And with back and forth negotiations with the British, eventually in 1921, they got their independence from the United Kingdom and formed their Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan in 1921. And still from 1921 to 1946, they were under British protectorate. So after this brief introduction, I will say the capital is Amman, and our trip will start with a flight to Amman. We will start our trip. Now, Amman, the capital and the biggest city of the country, it has a population of about 4 million people. So that is roughly a little bit less than 40% of the total population of the country lives in and around the capital city. As we see here, a panoramic view of the city, it has a downtown, a modern center with high rises, surrounded by low-rise residential areas. But this is not the whole thing, and this is not the only thing that will be of our interest. It is the Old Town, the Citadel Hill, which goes all the way back to the settlement, goes all the way back to 8th millennium BC. So during our time in Amman, in the capital city, we will visit this Citadel Hill. And it is totally, it may sound, totally out of place, but we need to remember that starting with the 2nd century AD, all this area was under Roman domination. We will go over that when we go to Petra and talk about Nabateans, the original inhabitants of this area. And Romans took over from Nabateans in the 2nd century AD, and it was Amman of the time was a provincial capital with a Roman governor. So the remnants from Roman times are still there with this amphitheater. Its capacity is about 6,000 people, partially renovated and still being used for certain festivals and concerts in Amman still today. And up on the hill, the Temple of Heracles, again going back to 2nd century AD, we can see there was a big, huge statue of Heracles. Heracles or Hercules, the same god. A huge statue of that god, only parts of which we see just a hand here, a big size hand here, survives today. And on the hill, of course, the hill, even after the Roman period with the Byzantine, and after that comes Umayyad period with the Islamic period, starting with 8th century. The remnants of the Umayyad palace we are going to visit. Now, this is important just to remind a little bit of history again. Umayyad dynasty took over the Islamic Caliphate after the first 4 caliphs. That is at the beginning of 8th century. And their Now here we are going to see inside what remains of this palace, Umayyad Palace. Their capital was Damascus. And just they had huge buildings and palaces and mosques in Damascus, and actually the Umayyad mosque, the main mosque in Damascus, still survives today. And if one day we have the chance to go there, and I've been there a bunch of times, it is really impressive and it's worth seeing. But this time, what we see from Umayyads here in Amman is the remnants of this palace. And also going back to early Islamic period, the mosque of the Husseini Mosque. This is the one we see here. This was built in 1932, but it is built on the site of a very early Islamic mosque that was erected in 640 by the second Caliph Omar here in Amman. So visiting the mosque here, it is, of course, we'll be able to go in and just learn about the history and the area of this area in Amman. And it's also a big chance to interact with local people, as mosques are, people where places where people congregate, and the mosques generally are surrounded by just markets and shops and everything. So it is going to be quite interesting to be in this area and to socialize with locals and to get information about the history of this capital city of Jordan. In our next, in our day in Amman, we will have an excursion about an hour's drive outside Amman, visiting this area. Visiting two locations, JERASH and AJLUN. Now, driving 1 hour, JERASH is another interesting and very important historic site, archaeological site. It has been inhabited since Bronze Age. It has been continuously actually inhabited. It is an interesting Greco-Roman settlement. The name at the time was Gerasa, and the Roman settlement we are going to visit. This is, for example, a nymphaeum, which is a monumental fountain in the center of the city, a colonnaded arcade with a colonnaded forum entrance to the city, and the Arch of Hadrian. Now, the Roman Emperor Hadrian, he visited the city, Jerash, in 129 AD, and to honor his visit and to commemorialize his visit, the city folk erected this gate in around 129 AD. So it was at the time a quite big city with a estimated population of about 20,000 people. So we will have a chance to spend some time here and get information about the history of this area, going all the way back to Romans and before. And our second destination this day will be again in the same vicinity, AJLUN Castle. Now, this is a panoramic view, and far away on the top of the hill we see the castle. Now, it is just, I have to mention that the history. There is Greco-Roman history, there is Byzantine, there is history of the Crusaders, and after that comes the period of Islamic occupation, the early Islamic occupation and Islamic empires and Ottomans and the First World War and today's Hashemite kingdom. So there was a lot going on and still a lot going on in this region and in this country. So that gives quite a big variety in our trip. So this is from Crusaders period. Just let's zoom in a bit. And this is AJLUN Castle, a small, relatively small Crusaders castle from 12th century. Actually, it was built against Crusaders by the Ayyubids. I'm sure you must have heard of Salatin Ayyubi, the commander of his own dynasty, Ayyubi dynasty that he formed in this region. And we will visit this castle, learn about the history of Ayyubis and the Crusaders. This was built as a just to watch the trade routes and the coming armies, Crusader armies, at the end of 12th century, beginning of 13th century. And the main Crusader castle we are going to see just 2 days after this. And we'll talk about that. And this is really quite interesting. So our days in and around Amman, we'll spend 2 nights in Amman, 1 day in the city and 1 day outside visiting JERASH and AJLUN. And on our next day, we will drive south from Amman, south to Dead Sea. Now, when we talk about Dead Sea, almost everybody thinks about Israel. Now, Dead Sea is shared between these 2 countries, Israel and Jordan. And it is located in the Jordan Rift Valley. And there's only one stream, one river coming into Dead Sea, that is the Jordan River, which is which forms the boundary between 2 countries, and actually the West Bank and Jordan. So it'll be interesting to see Dead Sea from this side. If you have been to Israel before, most probably you must have seen Dead Sea from the other side, from Israel's side. And it'll be interesting to see the Dead Sea from Jordan side. Now, Dead Sea, as I'm sure you know, it is the lowest land point, about 1,400 feet below sea level. And the deepest point is about 1,000 feet deep. And its salinity is very high, it's about 34%. So just we will go there and you will stay at a very nice resort, and you'll have the late afternoon, if you like, to just dip into the Dead Sea, and you will see that, as we see in this photo here. Just you will float basically because of the high salinity. Just you will not, sink, and you don't have to do anything. Just rest and read your book or paper, as this lady does here in the photo. So Dead Sea is one of the main attractions of Jordan, as it is in Israel. It has been throughout history too. Dead Sea supplied the asphalt to Egyptians that they used for mummification. It supplied this mud that you see on this person here, that even today people use or think and accept its beautifying qualities because of the minerals in it. So still they sell certain concoctions and creams that are made of this mud of Dead Sea, which you can still use. Now we will spend our night on the coast of Dead Sea. And the next day, we will leave Dead Sea region and drive all the way south, visiting a number of places on the way, all the way down south to the famous Petra. But the route that we are going to cover, now let's go over that on the map. That is famously known as King's Highway, and it has always been an important trade route throughout history. Originally, it starts in Egypt, Heliopolis, goes east to today's AQABA, or Israel's Eilat, and from there goes up north to Amman, and up north all the way to Damascus, and all the way to Euphrates River. So this was an important trade route that people carried certain minerals, and it was important to carry the iron ore from north to south, and copper from north to south, and various products that were made of iron and copper from south to north. That is about 3rd millennium BC we're talking about. But then, as we go into the time of Bedouin tribes and Nabateans and Romans, then it was a main route for trade from the eastern coast of Africa to Mesopotamia. So today's King's Highway, we are going to cross, as you see, this winding road. We will drive south, starting from Dead Sea, down south, all the way to Petra. And that is the important trade route of the past, now covered with, an asphalt road all the way. But on the way to Petra, during our drive, we will visit a number of locations. I mentioned the first one will be Madaba. Now, this location is famous for its Church of St. George. We see here, this is the church. It is a Greek Orthodox church, and it's famous for, well, this is a view from the inside, and it's a popular location with the local population too. But it's famous for the mosaic that we see on the floor, which is the oldest known mosaic map of the Holy Land from 6th century AD. That is from the Byzantine period. So it shows the Holy Land, Jerusalem in the middle, and all those rivers, and the Mediterranean Sea here we see, and all the other important Christian centers of the time in this mosaic map. So this is one of the places that we are going to see. Also the archaeological park that surrounds the area with mosaics from Roman and Byzantine periods. The second location we are going to see on our way to Petra will be Mount Nebo. Now, this is Mount Nebo. We see from a distance. It's about, it's a small hill actually, about 800 feet from sea level. And this is the biblical location. This is view from the top of Mount Nebo. This is the biblical location where Moses was granted a view of the promised land before his death. And it is believed in all the Abrahamic religions that he died here. And although the exact location of his burial is not known, it's assumed that he was buried here. And this has always been, in Christian times and in Islamic time too, a local place of pilgrimage. And we're going to visit this Mount Nebo, and a church was erected on top of the archaeological site. And we're going to visit and learn about the biblical importance of this location and go over the biblical history of this. So as we see, just we say biblical history and everything, but it has implications in today's politics, as I'm sure again, as Moses was granted a view of the promised land, and that promised land from Mount Nebo all the way to today's West Bank and Jerusalem and Tiberias and all the Holy Land, which is still a big point of contention between the Jewish and Arab populations here in this region. And it may be also possible to talk about the today's political implications of this historic visit of Moses here thousands of years ago. Another important location that we're going to visit on the way is a real Crusaders castle here, KERAK Castle. We see it's really huge, and it is monumental. I find it really interesting place as a remnant of just 12th century. The original castle was built in 1152 by the Crusaders. Here, another view from inside. And it was besieged in 1183 by, again, Saladin, and he couldn't conquer the place. But it was conquered by Islamic armies in 1188. And so you don't always have a chance to visit a real Crusaders castle. There are just very few of them left that are really in this good condition. The other one again is in Syria, KERAK Chevalier, to the south of Damascus, which is architecturally quite similar to this one. So again, since Syria is kind of out of bounds at the moment, this will take its place, and it's really worth visiting if you're interested in Crusader history. And also it gives us a chance again to think about and understand the implications today of the existence of Crusaders over there in 12th and 13th centuries, and how it changed the population, the politics of the area that still lives even today. So just we'll have a chance to talk about that in this location together with the Crusader history. And our destination here is Petra. Now, when we talk about Jordan, of course, the almost only location that everybody knows about is Petra. That is the highlight, the location that everybody knows about, and most of the people go there only to see Petra and nothing else. But as you see, until now, there is a lot more to see. But of course, Petra, just I will admit, is still the highlight. And when we talk about Petra, everybody visualizes this, what is called the treasury, the main scene. And this is the famous location. And if you have seen the Indiana Jones movie, it was the background here, one of the main locations that made it even more famous. But Petra is not just this location. It was the capital of Nabatean kingdom. These Nabateans, well, they were there 2,000 years BC, and they were the original inhabitants of the region, the original Arabic population, and they established their kingdom, and it lasted till 2nd century AD, till the Romans came and took over. They established their capital here in Petra, and it was a big and rich city. We talk about King's Highway. This Petra is on the King's Highway, and they took advantage of this trade route and those caravans and all the trade that was going on at the time made the capital quite rich and made all these structures possible. So it was not just this, what is called treasury, which was actually possibly the mausoleum of Nabatean king Aratas IV. So this is a view from up top, and it was quite hidden in a chasm, so that protected it from destruction of invaders of various invading armies. So we will spend one full day in Petra and some extra time in what's called Little Petra, just outside the main capital. And we will learn about the structures. Most of these here, they are rock-carved rock tombs and mausoleums. And we will also see the archaeological sites from the Roman periods. This Petra is also called the Rose City, as I'm sure just you can notice the pinkish hue of the rocks, and that just because of this color, this hue, it was called also the Rose City. So Romans came here at 109 AD, and at 363 AD, there was a big earthquake which destroyed most of the buildings in this area. And it was mostly, it lost its significance because of the dominance of sea routes. The King's Highway lost its significance as a trade route. So Petra and other Nabatean cities lost their significance in time, and they were neglected. And mostly, just nomadic Bedouins used to live occasionally in this area. And it was unknown to the Western world till the beginning of the 19th century. It was kind of rediscovered in 1812, after which, gradually there has been excavations, and it came to prominence in Western archaeology. And here, one more scene, one more photo. This is more from the Roman periods, from 2nd and beginning of 3rd centuries AD. And this is what's called the high place of sacrifice. And even today, people believe that Prophet Aaron is the brother of Moses. He was buried here, and among Christians and local Christians and Muslims, the place is a local site of pilgrimage. So we will spend one full day here in Petra talking about its significance and seeing these interesting locations, not just the main site that is just famous in all photos and movies. Now, Petra, on the map, if you see, it says Wadi Musa. That is today's name. Petra, that is the old name given by the Romans. And our next location from after our visits in Petra, and we'll spend 2 nights there, we will drive to Wadi Rum. And down south here, this area, Wadi means valley, so Rum Valley. It is the biggest valley in Jordan. It's a valley cut into sandstone and granite. It's the largest valley, as I mentioned. So we will have 4x4s, and we'll drive into the valley. There is a desert section together with the rock formations. So we will have an excursion in the desert, in the sand dunes. And we will stay in a very nice desert camp. Here, this is the view of the desert camp that we're going to stay. Now, the history of Wadi Rum, mostly it is in the history of Arab revolt at the end of the First World War in 1917. If you heard about the Lawrence of Arabia and have seen the movie of Lawrence of Arabia, I'm sure you know about this Arabian revolts before and during the First World War against the Ottomans, and how they got their independence first from Ottomans and then partly French and partly from the British. So the Lawrence of Arabia, he was here just crossing, zigzagging north south. He was in Hijaz, which is in Saudi Arabia today, and going down south there, helping Arabian tribes organize, Saudis to organize, and coming up north here and helping the Hashemites organize. And in the end, the 1917 revolt and the Battle of AQABA resulted in the independence of the Arabs from the Ottomans. But of course, history didn't end there. So we'll learn about and talk about this history. And just incidentally, I have to mention this. Now, this trip is in May. In January, we have a trip to Saudi Arabia. And in that trip, we will cover northern part of Saudi Arabia, Madain Saleh, which was a settlement of the Nabateans, the same people who built Petra as their capital. And we will visit all this area like Wadi Rum here, the continuation of this scenery and continuation of the Petra rock tombs and carved, into rock, all those formations. We will see in northern Saudi Arabia and the desert over there, and in the valleys in Saudi Arabia. That's also going to be a very interesting trip if you are interested. And if you can't join the trip to Jordan, you might want to join the one in Saudi Arabia in January. And we'll talk about Lawrence of Arabia and the Arabian Revolt, the history and independence of Saudi Arabia and everything on that trip. Just on the other side, of the southern side of the border. Well, so Wadi Rum is interesting in that sense, and in today it is interesting also as it was used as a backdrop, as a movie set on various movies. Of course, Lawrence of Arabia was partly filmed here, and it was filmed for the Red Planet and the Martian as the planet Mars, as the views are kind of Martian. So we will spend our night here in this desert camp and learn about the history and the 4x4s. We will venture into the desert and into the valley. And then the next day, we will drive to AQABA. AQABA, that is the only coastal city in Jordan. And this is on the coastal Gulf of AQABA. And the ancient name is Eilat. And just, it is very close to the border with Israel. And to the west of the border is the Israeli resort town of Eilat, and that still carries the ancient name. And to the west of that is the Egyptian town of Taba. So this is where all these three countries, Jordan and Israel and Egypt, they come together. So we will drive to AQABA. As I mentioned, this is a coastal town. This is the only coastal city in Jordan. And today it's mainly a resort town. Being the only coastal town, of course, it's mainly, very attractive for the Jordanian people to go down south here, to come here for its resorts and for the nice beaches and just spending some time in the Gulf of Aqaba. But historically, that was important too. We'll visit the Castle of Aqaba from, again, the time of Crusaders from 1115. And again, the history, kind of repeats itself. Here, 1170s was captured by the Saladin army. And I mentioned the Arab Revolt in 1917, towards the end of the First World War. There was this Battle of Aqaba, Arabs versus Ottomans. Arabs organized by the Lawrence of Arabia, and the end of the result of the battle was Arabs won, and just Ottomans had to leave the city to Arab domination. And so we'll talk about this history and spend some time in the castle, and we'll have some leisure time in this nice resort city. And then we will, the next day, drive again along or following the King's Highway up north to the capital Amman, and then we will fly back home. So this will be our 10-day, 8-night trip to Jordan, an adventure in time. Now I will stop sharing my screen with you and turn on my camera. So this is going to be a really, interesting trip, as I mentioned, covering different parts of history, and also just learning about today's Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, which is politically, geopolitically very important in the region. We'll learn about today's country, of course, and its importance. So it's going to be in May, and I hope that you will be able to join this trip. If you have any questions, please, now this is the time, and I will try to answer your questions.
What is the temperature like as far as for packing clothes that time of the year?
Yes, May is a nice time. It is, well into spring. Now we need to remember that this is, mostly landlocked. The country is not landlocked, of course. To the south, it opens up to the Gulf of Aqaba, but up north in Amman, it has continental climate. So Amman and down south, it is quite different. In Amman, we can expect in May temperatures around mid-70s or a little bit high 70s partially. But the temperature difference between day and night will be big. So during the day, mid or high 70s. At night, we can have temperatures below 40s or lower 50s. And as we go down south, it'll be warmer in Petra, in Wadi Rum, especially, just some desert climate. So during the day, we can have lower 80s, and all the way down south in Wadi Rum and in AQABA, lower to mid 80s. But again, in the evening, especially in Wadi Rum, in the desert, we can expect higher 40s and lower 50s. But just we don't expect any rain. It's going to be quite pleasant. That is, this is the correct time to visit Jordan, starting June till the end of August, actually till mid-September. It gets quite hot, so it's not pleasant to visit the country at that time during that period.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. So,
sure.
I see we're gonna be there for, I think, 10 nights, 8 days, and most of the locations would tend to spend 1 day there. I think maybe one of them has 2 days. Isn't it gonna be too intense? And will we have enough time to rest? Or
The answer is yes. Now, 8 nights. We will spend 2 nights in Amman at the beginning and 1 night at the end. So 3 nights goes there. And then 1 night in Dead Sea and 2 nights in Petra and 1 night in AQABA. So it is not that hectic, I would say. You arrive there, spend 2 nights in Amman first, so it's low paced. And then we drive to Dead Sea, but the driving distance is not that long. It's, just we have some sightseeing in the morning in the capital in Amman, and then drive to the resort in Dead Sea and spend the afternoon in Dead Sea. That is also relaxed time. And then the next day we drive to Petra, visiting these places along the way. Now we have to remember that a non-stop drive from Dead Sea to Petra is about 3.5 hours. So that is the driving time, total driving time. And this 3.5 hours, we will divide in between 3 locations, between Madaba, Mount Nebo, and KERAK Castle. So just, kind of 1 hour drive and then visit some place, 1 hour drive, visit another place. In between, we'll have lunch and then drive another hour. So the pace is not that hectic. Just always, we visit some place, we stop at some place, and we have lunch, and we have plenty of leisure time in the location that we are going to visit. And then we spend 1 full day in Petra. And so that is also nice, spending 2 nights. That gives you opportunity not to pack, every morning. And then drive to Wadi Rum. Again, that's not a long distance, and spend about 3 hours in the desert, 4x4s, and spend the night there. And then drive to AQABA, again, a short drive. And then the final day, 3.5 hour drive back to Amman, and we'll spend the afternoon in the capital. Either we'll have leisure time, or depending on the size of the group and depending on the conditions at the time, we may try to arrange some special meetings, as World Affairs Councils do. So that maybe for the afternoon, depending on the conditions, as I mentioned. So the tour is short, but it is not that hectic, and it gives you plenty of time to plenty of time to visit all these locations at a reasonable pace. And also, just 2 nights in Amman and 2 nights in Petra gives plenty of time to kind of settle and get rest at the same hotel without packing every morning.
Thanks. So 1 night in AQABA.
1 night in AQABA, that's correct.
Okay. And then regarding flights, do we book, if let's say for all interested, do we book different flights from Houston to arrive at Amman, or you coordinate flights to make sure, since I'm assuming most of us will be leaving from Houston, so we all leave on the same flight?
Yeah, we will coordinate the flights, and in the brochure, actually, just let me check again 1 second, please. I am just having the brochure in front of me here. And yes, now if you download the brochure from the World Affairs Council website, you will see the suggested flight schedule that is on Turkish Airlines via Istanbul. So May 5th, you fly from Istanbul to Houston, change flights, and fly to Amman, and you arrive there at 2:15 p.m. It's very nice, time of the day the next day. And on the way back from Amman to Istanbul, that is a very early morning flight on the 14th, in Amman to Istanbul, connecting from Istanbul to Houston. So the suggested flights are given on the or in the brochure. If you choose to do that, you can book those flights on your own. If you want us to book them, we can book them for you. Either way is good, that's fine. If you choose to book them though, just let us know beforehand, because in the past there has been, just sometimes confusion and people book wrong flights and things happen. So we want to make sure that you book, the correct flights. So if you choose to book your own flights, using your miles or using your, card with the airline and everything. There are different options for different people. So just let us know beforehand so that we can check and make sure that we're booking the correct flights.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes. Other questions?
What about the cost? You've not mentioned the overall cost.
Cost, well, it's not in front of me, but again, I will refer you to the website. If you go to World Affairs Council website, actually, let me try to do this here. World Affairs Council travel menu, upcoming trips, and what you'll see is it starts with travel info session, but you will just scroll down. You will see the other trips to Morocco and Spain and Cuba and Saudi Arabia, South India, and load more listings. And then will come the trip to New Zealand, Australia, Croatia, and Jordan here. So what I'm going to do is here, I put the link here in the chat box. So the link to the webpage for the Jordan trip is now in the chat section. If you just open up the chat section of your Zoom window, you will see the link. You click on that, please, and that will take you to the Jordan trip webpage. And the price is given there, $5,550 for members per person, not including airfare. And at the bottom, you can there's a link for the itinerary. You click on that and you download the itinerary. And there's also another link for trip application that you can click on and download.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then do we have to pay all at once, or we can pay in installments, or?
Well, at the moment, I believe there is a $1,000 deposit for application, and then just balance will be due more or less 3 months before the trip. The exact dates, I'm sure, are given in the application form. As World Affairs Council Travel Department arranges those dates. Just I don't have a chance to check that.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for joining this session this evening. If you have other questions, now is the chance, and if not, then I'll wish you a good night, and I will end this session. And I hope you can join this trip to Jordan, and if not, World Affairs Council offers a number of other trips to various other destinations. Please check the travel pages of World Affairs Council of Houston, and I'm sure you'll find a trip that is interesting and that you might be able to join. So thanks again, everyone, and good night.